we should all think about this personally. Does it make us feel better that this happened because of human error? Am I more likely or less likely to go back to Alton Towers because of that? Or actually, does human error make us ask more questions? You know, what systems were in place that allowed that human error to take place? Who was responsible for the training that was not necessarily properly implemented at Alton Towers? So actually, human error, although it's narrowing it to a kind of single focus, actually might start making us ask more questions. And also in terms of the timing of it, it's quite interesting, and I'm intrigued as a PR professional and a crisis management advisor as to why they've released this now in advance of the Health and Safety Executive releasing the findings of their investigation.
Yeah, quite. Presumably it's because they want to get control of the story.
Indeed, but actually, you know, in terms of the story and the story continuing, now we know that we're going to have another story when the Health and Safety investigation comes out, as well as the story that's running today.
Yeah, so how do they rebuild confidence in this ride? And is it a good thing at all that they're reopening it?
I think if we could just strip commercials out of it and strip finance out of it and speak purely from a PR perspective, ideally they wouldn't reopen the ride, because this isn't going to go away. You know, every time there's an anniversary, it will be remembered. Every time that there's a small error with the ride, it will be in the press again. The families obviously will all find this very difficult to hear today. And indeed, when the investigation comes out, this will be yet another story. And we can all imagine on the first day when Alton Towers opens in the spring, in March, the pictures that people will be taking of the ride, which I assume will not be full.
Yeah, quite. So, I mean, how do they convince people that it is safe again then?
I mean, that's going to take a long time. And, you know, I imagine there would have been meetings after meetings in the boardroom to talk about whether to reopen the ride or not. And it's such a big investment to open it in the first place, one of their biggest, 18 million.
Yeah, they can't just shut it down.
They can't just shut it down. And they'll be wanting to to gradually rebuild that revenue, but they need to rebuild that trust slowly. So what it's going to take is simply getting that safety record back up, proving that the ride is safe, and being really open with their communications with people. You know, I have always commended them for the way that they dealt with this initially, for the way they've treated the victims, and for the compensation, for the openness that they've really approached this with. And they need to continue doing that when the ride reopens to make sure people feel reassured.
Yeah, I suspect there's a whole bunch of junior reporters on national newspapers quaking tonight at the thought of having to go on that ride when it reopens.
Exactly.
Lest we forget, though, I mean, 190 people lost their jobs
Yeah.
as Merlin cut costs on the back of this accident.
Yes, and actually what I see, today's news is essentially them saying we're preparing to move forward. We are going to keep this investment in this ride. We are going to try and rebuild. We've unfortunately had to already make those job losses, and by reopening the ride, we're kind of trying to stem any more of those in the future.
So, as a PR professional, how would you be marketing the reopening? What would be your big show?
I think a big show would probably be the wrong idea. I would actually just reopen it very softly, very quietly. I would try not to kind of add any fanfare. I'd be sensitive about the way we're advertising it in the first phase of the reopening. And then gradually, as trust starts to rebuild, then start to reintroduce a positive PR and proactive PR around the ride.